Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell giving testimony on Capitol Hill to the Congressional Finance Committee, taking questions in reference to monetary policy, which is comical in and of itself, that he's taking questions from congressmen and women in reference to monetary policy, something few understand. But nonetheless, one of the other things that's fascinating about the testifying of the Federal Reserve Chairman is it ends up being the Federal Reserve Chairman of the Chairman of the Federal Reserve telling Congress what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, the way they're doing it, and says to it as pretty much a course of routine business. The fact of the matter is, in 1913, when the Federal Reserve was established, the Federal Reserve was established by the Congress, for the Congress, to be accountable to the Congress. So somewhere along the line, I suspect it was in the 1940s or 50s, we lost track of the fact that it was Congress that was supposed to pull most of the strings and dictate to the Federal Reserve and demand of the Federal Reserve certain measures of accountability. They don't do that anymore. Now, I don't think it's an issue, particularly with Jerome Powell. He's been doing an excellent job. But I think about back when Ben Bernanke was chairman of the Federal Reserve, and Ron Paul, his father, was demanding for things like audits. He wanted to audit the Federal Reserve. And he pushed very hard for that. He wanted to abolish the Federal Reserve, actually, do away with it, which I did say very vocally that would have been the biggest mistake we could ever make. But I was all for an audit in the sense of, why shouldn't we audit? They should be audited every year. I'm a nonprofit. I have to have a certified audit go to the federal government every year, just because I'm a nonprofit with, I don't know what the cutoff is, 250,000 of donations coming in. So therefore, I have to have a certified audit. It's one of the highest expenses of the ministry for the year, with the exception of payroll, that I got to pay an auditing firm to audit our books. I don't have a problem with it. I don't really care. So how can the Federal Reserve have to be, how does the Congress have to pass a law or to try to push the Federal Reserve for an audit, which, by the way, they never did. They didn't do a complete audit. They did a very superficial audit of their accounting, the basic sticks and stones that they account for. But we don't know. At the time, we were talking about a potential of $14 trillion that went to bail out banks around the world, not American banks, other banks. And a lot of people, myself included, were up in arms about that. What are we doing bailing out the banking system and other corporations around the world? And it never showed up in the audit, and Ben Bernanke refused to have a complete audit. So Fox News, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who the other organization was, filed a joint under the Freedom of Information Act, a request from the Federal Reserve, which took about 2 years to get, and they finally got that there was at least $7 trillion used to bail out foreign entities. Now, that was the information they were seeking, but they didn't do anything with it. Nobody cared. I cared. I was ranting and raving, you might remember, on the radio about it, but nobody else cared. But I always think it's funny when the Federal Reserve is testifying, what do they, the Federal Reserve has a responsibility to their boss, so to speak, or the contracting agency that hired them, what they're doing. I remember saying to somebody in reference to a contractor, this was about a year ago, that we were using. And I said to him in the conversation, I said, you know what? I guess I kind of lost my way in this. And I said, I apologize. I didn't realize that we were working for you. I got mixed up, and I thought that you were working for us. Now, I was being extremely sarcastic and being a wise guy after arguing with this person for a while. And, there was silence. I said, is that the way it is? So you owe us money, I guess? And the whole tone of the conversation changed. And, we sometimes are looking at the Federal Reserve like we, Congress, the taxpayers of America, are working for them. That's a very frustrating thing to me because nobody is really trying to get any kind of accountability from the Federal Reserve. And you know what? In this case, and Jerome Powell and all these, I'm okay with that. We turned over our monetary system to them, rightly so. I agree with that. But we should be able to ask or get whatever we want to get or ask. But sometimes it doesn't seem that way. Hey, remember to click the subscribe button right here on the screen. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when new content is added. And more importantly than anything, you don't want to miss all 3 live hours of Financial Issues every day from 9 to noon. And you can watch it on FISM.tv. That's FISM.tv.